This is my review, or I guess overview, of my Modify custom built out PP2000. It's a Russian submachine gun, and I guess the big question at hand is it the MP7 killer? The MP7 is a popular submachine gun platform, not only in most Call of Duty games and movies, and also the Airsoft and Real Steel. The PP2000, like I said, it's the Russian submachine gun. This cost me, I want to say, $350. I did buy it new. And I'll show you some of its features to start off, and then kind of we'll go over a review of the gun. And unfortunately, I can't fire it for you today because I don't have any green gas at hand. I burned it all the last game. So first, you'll notice this big, obnoxious thing. We're just going to take this off. I'll get into that in a second. So at first, when you order the PP2000, it comes with just the main section of the weapon, plus a small flash hider and a short mag. You can purchase the short mags in green gas or in CO2, and then they also have the long mags in green gas and CO2. The short mags in green gas and CO2 seem to work just fine. The long mags tend to have an issue, from my understanding, from a lot of the guys that I've talked to in the Heavy Recoil Discord. I don't have any of those, but I've heard that the single canister of CO2 doesn't get through the entire mag. Green gas, it originally, I was having some problems getting through the entire mag, and then I realized if I purge the mags at first while filling, it runs just fine. Most of the time. Primarily in semi, full auto, this thing's a disaster, so don't even try. But as with a lot of gas blowback airsoft guns, the full auto feature doesn't necessarily work the best. Some do, but not all. So, the gun itself, I'm not exactly sure the FPS. The bottom of the frame is all a nice, solid, hard plastic with absolutely no wiggle. The upper portion of the rifle is a metal construction, and there's a lot of steel internal parts. Just an FYI, there's two different versions of this gun. This is the second version, which has a couple upgrades, which I'll discuss when we break it down. A lot of the parts that you're going to see on this are actually proprietary parts. Modify themselves sell these parts specifically for the PP2000. Things like the foregrip flashlight, the suppressor that has a block on it so that it doesn't rotate. Any stock. This is not the stock that comes with this one. This is a buffer tube stock that they sell adapter. It comes with a wire stock. And then I just bought this on Amazon. I buy cheap red dots just because they can get shot out. And I don't like the little caps that go over the front of them. So we'll first break the gun apart. I'll show you everything inside of it or involved in it. If you take the flashlight out, or we want to take the flashlight out, there's a little lever here. Takes some decent force. The flashlight's a little pricey. It runs off of three, I think they're 1, 2, 3 batteries. And again, they have the area to plug in your pressure pad, the single flashlight on and off switch. It's got this one single bulb with a big reflector on the outside. I don't know how BB proof this is, so hopefully it lasts. And then it's got this big plastic casing around it. It sits in the gun phenomenally. There is no wiggle at all. However, when you purchase the flashlight, I don't know why Modify does this. The plastic doesn't, it's supposed to tighten from just this screw and like pinch and squeeze the flashlight. It doesn't squeeze it. It just slides around, even no matter how tight you make it. So you got to put some electrical tape around it. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but like, I mean, come on, Modify. You know? The pressure pad is just a single pressure pad. Press it to turn it on, release it to turn it off. I just taped it to the foregrip. The suppressor, which is a pain to take off because it's got this locking mechanism and it's really tight to get on and off. It helps avoid the suppressor from rotating when playing or moving around and whatnot. So like I said, it's really difficult to take off. It is filled with a foam insert, so it doesn't necessarily work like a suppressor would on a real steel gun. However, it looks cool. So if I'm going indoors, I tend to run it more than not with a tracer unit. I don't know if you can put a tracer unit inside of the suppressor. I'm sure you could figure it out, but I haven't yet. The stock, again, it's a buffer tube stock that comes with a wire stock. All you do to remove it is take this guy out. Again, it wiggles a lot, so I did throw some tape on it. You have minimal real estate up top. This is your only rail system. Your charging handles up front. You have to flip this guy in order to charge it. It will not charge if it's on safe. But if you switch this guy like a typical Russian to full auto first, shows all 3 dots, and semi second for single fire, it will then allow you to charge the bolt. Now, one thing is when you put a mag in and the mag is out of ammo, the charging port or the charging handle does not lock back. You have to recharge it every time that you put another mag in, unlike some guns which have a bolt release. The trigger itself is actually kind of mushy. It's not the best trigger in the world by any means. It's very it's like gummy, if that makes sense. But when you're playing, you really don't notice it. Your mag release is right here. Pretty firm. It's small. It's very easy to access, even with people with smaller hands. I have some rather larger hands, so it's not a big deal. And this guy. So this is a secondary part. It comes originally with a small swivel mount. This part is purchased from Modify alongside a holster, so that when it's on your hip, your belt, or your vest, you can holster the gun to your side. So that's pretty cool. It's nice that they went ahead and made that. Now, a weird quirk about this gun before we break it down is, much like the real steel variant, you can put a mag in. Which way to go? This way. It's a little wobbly, but it does function as a stock. So I guess if you wanted to run an extra mag and get rid of the stock, you can. I don't see why you would. I wouldn't, but, whatever. Now we'll break the gun apart. Taking down this submachine gun is actually very easy. There's a little lever on the inside. You just have to press it, pull the front of the gun up. Be careful, it's spring-loaded. It pulls out and forward. And the whole gun attaches or detaches from the main trigger system and hammer assembly. And then you have the upper portion of the gun. First, we'll get into the hammer assembly. Primarily used with steel parts, even including a bearing to help with a smooth travel. The gun itself is actually really stable. Or not stable, resilient. The reason I say resilient, at least so far, is I've put it through a ton of abuse. And a lot of the contact points where the hammers and sears meet, they don't have a very little amount of connection. They actually have quite a large amount of travel between points where metal pieces are sliding on and off of each other. So I would assume it can withstand a decent amount of wear and tear. I have yet to take the hammer system apart. But again, like I said, I did stick a magnet in there, and a good handful of these pieces are a nice steel. Should be all right. You could see where the trigger connects with this huge bar all the way back into the hammer assembly. Okay. Going into the front of the gun, where I've had a few issues. So, from my understanding, first you push this whole system out, and then it disassembles like this. Most of your problems will originate from this area of the gun if you don't have the second variant. From my understanding, the first variant of the gun, or the first edition of this rifle, doesn't have bearings, so the travel isn't as smooth, and it starts to wear and tear at the housing of the nozzle itself and the inside of the gun. Another issue that you'll notice is in the first edition of these submachine guns is this metal nozzle stop is plastic in the first edition, and they were breaking left and right on people. It was just atrocious. I can't even believe they released a gun like that with how quickly they were breaking on people within the first few shots even. So they came out with a CNC piece, so kudos to them for listening to the community. They do sell a handful of different nozzles, high power and low power nozzles, so you can adjust the power output of the gun. I have heard that people running the low power nozzles give it better gas efficiency, obviously. I have a high power nozzle in there just because, make it go hurt. Another issue that I had with the gun is another issue that I've had with the gun is the charging handle. So the charging handle when I was shooting was wiggling all over the place, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Because instead of having some sort of a steel or a plastic piece, they had a rubber piece in here, and obviously to prevent wear, but it just the thing was flipping around like a wiener. So I went on Amazon and I bought some steel rods. They go in just fine. They don't wobble around. And, yeah, it works as intended. So to reassemble... Oh, I'm sorry. I want to go over the hop unit as well. So the hop unit, you actually have to screw this in from the bottom. They send you an extremely long Allen key. I can see if I still have it. If not, you have to take the gun apart. I don't think I still have it. At least I don't know where it is. Okay, anyways. There's a way that you can reach the screw through the bottom of the grip. There's a hole right here. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see. See that hole? Or you could just pop this off and screw it on and off with a regular Allen key. The housing itself is metal, but the little piece that holds this guy on is plastic. It doesn't take a lot of pressure or any wear on the, or I guess abuse, but I don't really know what the longevity is behind this, and it's got some seriously small screws. It does say they have an upgraded bucking in there. The barrel is pretty short, but obviously if you're running a suppressor, you could run a barrel throughout the entire thing. I think that's it. So reassembly, you're going to place the rollers to the ceiling. When I put this back in, I want to explain something else too. You're going to slide this guy, the spring, right into the back of the hammer, or right into the back wall of the hammer housing. When it's all lined up, push, and it's all locked in place. No wiggle. So another issue that I've heard a lot of people were having with this sub is the constant charging of this handle. Boom, boom, boom. The rod isn't a steel. It's just a metal, like an aluminum. And people were starting to get these... Let's see if we can focus this. I have a hard time focusing today. These lumps, these mounds of metal that were popping out on the side, and they couldn't get the rod back out of the gun, so they'd have to sand this down. So my recommendation is either to take it apart relatively often, or again, just, rub some sandpaper over it before it gets too tight. I'm going to throw the flashlight back on, just push this guy in. Set up. Just going to make sure she's functioning. Cool. We'll throw stock back on. I used hockey tape because it's a little thicker. It's hard to get in, but that's good because it keeps it from wobbling very much. So, before we head forward, or I set you free, these mags are obnoxiously long, like extremely long for what they're worth. Now, the big question is, how do you carry all of them? I've tried a couple things, and honestly, most like extended Glock mag pouches do work. I went online and I found these. This just attaches to my vest. This is the Novrich vest attachment with the extended Glock pouches or the submachine gun pouches, and they actually hold on there pretty well. Covers about half of them. It's not too long. I usually run one on my back, 4 in my front because the vest or the novice vests are pretty short, and 1 in the gun, so on average 6 mags. Sometimes I'll run a 7th if I can find another space, but I try and keep it pretty light. And most games that I'm playing, I don't have a local field that plays a lot of Milsim style games, so the games themselves are usually 15-20 minutes, and with each one of these guys holding about 50 rounds, I think they said they were. I mean, come on. If you use the math, like 300 rounds is more than enough. So yeah, modified PP2000. It's just my setup. I think it's a fantastic gun. Is it the MP7 killer? I don't think so. But if you're bored of the, regular style MP7, it's definitely a fun platform to get into. And for me, at least, it's been relatively reliable. As long as you get the second version. I recommend ordering it off their website because you don't know what version you're getting. Until then, stay stupid.